Hi everyone, I'm Lisa from Pink Hollybush Designs, and I'm back today to show you how to center your smocking design on your piece of pleated fabric. I've pleated up this lovely red garden fabric from Pink Hollybush, and I have removed the pleats from a ½ inch on both seam allowances. And then I've gone ahead and I've counted my pleats, and you might see my lovely pleat markers that I have in here, and I've counted the pleats by 50s. And when I did that, I ended up that I had 201 pleats. Now the first thing is you want an even number of pleats for your smocking design if you're doing a geometric design, because all of smocking stitches cover 2 pleats, so you need to be working with an even number. So the first thing I did was remove 1 extra pleat from one end to get down to an even 200. Now it would be nice if my design fit perfectly into 200 pleats, and probably at 200 I could find one that would, but pattern repeats on smocking designs can be anywhere from 4 to 6 all the way up to 18 or 20. My graph Finley, which is a free design that you can get off of my website, has an 18 stitch repeat. So if I were going to do Finley on this piece of fabric, I can't remove 20 pleats to get down to the 180, and actually to do Finley you would need 180 plus 2 to finish that final design, the final repeat, which is how all smocking designs work. You'll need that extra stitch to finish the repeat unless you're doing something in the round that connects back up. So for Finley I would need 182 pleats to do the design perfectly, and yet I certainly don't want to remove that many pleats and lose that amount of width in my pleated piece. I can't do that. So today I'm going to show you how you handle that. So going back to my markers, I've identified the very middle of my pleated piece, that's in the center valley in this case, and I've prepared my floss. I have a very long piece of floss, about 36 to 40 inches, and it's 3 strands which I've separated and threaded my needle. So I'm going to go in right here on my very center plate, or I should say center valley, it's not a center plate, and I'm going to get that thread exactly halfway. And the reason I'm doing this is going to avoid a knot in the middle, and is hopefully going to let me make it all the way to the other edge with my smocking, and then I'll leave the knots on either of the seam allowances. So I'll show you how you do that. So we're doing 2 things here. We're centering the design and we're avoiding knots. So my design calls in the very center, which I'm reading my graph, and I'm starting at looking at the center of the graph with an under cable, which is what I'm doing. And now I'm just gonna, since I'm right-handed, I'm gonna smock to my right seam allowance. If you were left-handed, you would smock to the left, following the design. And if you have questions on how to read a smocking graph, down in the links under the YouTube video, you'll find a link to a blog post I wrote that takes you step by step how to read the smocking graph so you know what you're doing. So go to my website and you can find that under Smocking the Basics, and it'll take you through every step of the way. So I'm going to begin doing that. And you can see I'm actually going to do a trellis stitch. And you can see I've left that that tail is just going to be hanging there in the middle, and we'll come back and get it later. I've stitched up to the end, and you can see I have just a couple pleats left to go, but I am one pleat short of being able to do the entire design and end down here with that cable stitch. And I don't want to end with one of the traveling stitches. You really, to have a nice firm edge over here, you want to end with a horizontal stitch. So I'm going to stop here, and from this point on I'm just going to cable over to that edge, and I'll do the same thing at the other side as well. See, there I'm going, and that's going to give me a nice finished edge there. And now I'm going to knot off my fabric, which again, knot off my thread, which you see I made it all the way to this end, so that knot is going to be right over here in the back in my seam allowance. Get my thread to go in nicely. I don't want to catch my pleating threads in that. And we're going to turn around, and it will be back here. Right, so I've gone back to the center of my design. I've threaded up the floss that I had left there in the center. I'm now going to stitch the other half of the design. Now, if you remember, we always stitch in the same direction when we're smocking. So since I'm right-handed, I always stitch from left to right. And up to this point, I've been following this trellis cable line of stitching on thinly. So now to center it, what I'm going to do is take my pattern and turn it upside down. And I'm going to do the same thing with my smocking. Turn it upside down. And now I'm going to go back to the pattern, look at it right at the center, and follow the design this way, since I'm smocking from left to right. And I have the exact same, I have the same orientation here with my fabric. So I'm just going to continue along just as I was doing and stitch all the way to the other side. And because smocking is, just geometric, and you're just putting the stitches in the same places between the pleating rows, it's no problem at all. And you just continue this way. When I get to that other end, I will do the same thing of adding those additional cable stitches to finish it off. So here we are finished, and hopefully you can see it matches up at both ends perfectly, and it's centered. So now from this point on, I can start again in the middle if I'm not sure about how another part of the pattern lines up with this, or I can just start on my left-hand side and work to the right following the pattern. If you'd like more information on how to read a pattern, check out the blog post that's listed in the YouTube notes below. And for future videos on smocking and sewing, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much.